Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another video for Fear the Walking Dead. In this one, we're going to be doing a timeline explain video going through all the events of Fear the Walking Dead from the very beginning of the zombie apocalypse up to current time, which is up to the start for the second half of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4. And spoiler warning, if you are not actually caught up for Fear the Walking Dead, you haven't seen up to the mid-season finale for Season 4. So yeah, in this one we're going to take a look through the timeline of Fear the Walking Dead. We won't go into detail episode by episode, but just an overall kind of a view, macro view on what we've seen so far in the series and how long it actually is into the zombie apocalypse now in our current kind of timeline in Fear at this point, as well as taking a look at that big time skip between the end of Season 3 of Fear and the start of Season 4, which really makes up for, more than we've even seen in the series. A lot of time during the zombie apocalypse for the Fear group was actually skipped over. So we start things off in 2010 in terms of real-world time. This was when the original Walking Dead series had started. This is when the episode Date of Death confirms the year of the outbreak was, in fact, 2010, when both the series, or when kind of the zombie outbreak, the global outbreak, first kind of took over. And you have Rick, of course, in the original Walking Dead series, who's kind of in the coma and everything that's happening with that. And then in Fear the Walking Dead, we have the events of our survivors basically just living their lives in LA. So if you guys remember, way back in the first season of Fear, you have Nick, he's struggling with his addiction issues. You have Gloria, who's the first I want to say zombie that we ever see in the AMC television series Walking Dead universe. So in terms of date, she's like a day one first type of zombie that's kind of we're getting to see there. We go through all the events of the first season into the end of the first half of Season 2, and that literally takes up 3 weeks. So literally from day one to the mid-season break during Season 2 is 20 days or 3 weeks time, so that literally we are 3 weeks time into the zombie apocalypse at the time the mid-season finale for Season 2 rolls around. So during that time, of course, it includes the whole kind of family getting together to try to survive in Season 1. It includes the military kind of coming in and what happened with that before they kind of left and the whole thing was kind of abandoned and whatnot. We have kind of the group going to find the Abigail with Strand. They take the Abigail and they head to Mexico, and pretty much they're surviving on the water, going on different events that they see there, up until the point where you get to Celia's compound, which, yes, like we said, is only really a few weeks into the zombie apocalypse. From the time period of the start of the second half of Fear the Walking Dead Season 2 to the end of Season 3 takes us from days 22 to day 64. So basically at the time you get to the dam at the end of Fear the Walking Dead Season 3, we have literally seen the survivors in Fear do all of this within 2 months. So literally this is like 2 months from the start of the zombie apocalypse encapsulates the first 3 seasons according to the wiki for Fear the Walking Dead. I tend to think it makes sense to me that it should be longer than that. If you look at all the things that happen during that time frame with the Fear group, them going to Mexico, them being split up, them finding each other, kind of again, the stuff with Season 2's finale at the border there, and then going to Season 3 with the death of Travis and all the things that happened at the ranch and kind of the back and forth fighting from there on out. But according to the wiki, that is literally 64 days or approximately 2 months from the start of the zombie apocalypse to the events of the dam. Now here's where things get really tricky. So after day 64, where you have kind of everything that happens here at the dam, stuff starts to get really kind of difficult to understand going into Season 4 of Fear the Walking Dead, because there's so much time that has been skipped in order for Morgan to actually leave the junkyard, which he did actually stay at for a little while, and then eventually meet our group in Fear. So for the Fear group, for the Fear timeline itself, for those survivors there, they did in fact, so day 64 is when the dam, roughly around when the dam is blown up and everything that happens there 4. And then afterwards, at some point here, which was not shown to us, the group got back together, and it was explained that at some point Nick went out to find Luciana and brought her back with him. So from that point, from day 64 to approximately when we start to kind of find out about Madison's journey and everything else that happened in the double timeline in the first half of season 4, things get quite a bit fuzzy. There was a scene in there where Madison met Althea, which probably would happen next as they were traveling around near Texas there. Until eventually, as we saw in the mid-season finale, they came upon the Dell Diamond Baseball Stadium and decided to begin a community there. So really, the earliest scene in terms of timeline after the events of the dam would really come through the Althea scenes with Madison that were shown in that mid-season finale of season 4, and kind of when she explained that she sort of, ran into, that she got separated from the others. She ran into them at a motel, and then at some point there, soon afterwards, they found the stadium, and they actually stayed and lived at the stadium for over a calendar year. Then after that year, which we don't really see much of, we start to get to see the scenes in the first half of Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 with Nick as he's doing the farming with the others, and they're starting to kind of run out of food. You have the events of the vultures that come in with Charlie as well, too, which also, unfortunately, takes up a certain amount of time that it's really difficult to say, leading up to that and then afterwards how long that actually took. But at some point here, we got to see the events of the collapse of the stadium with Madison sacrificing herself, according to Talking Dead anyway, to save the kids and that, and them kind of heading off. Now we get kind of another sort of time skip here as well too, which we don't know how long this happened, where the vultures are kind of out there in the world doing whatever they're doing. Naomi or June or Laura, she joins them or somehow kind of starts to live with them or whatever. And also that's another amount of time that we just don't know how long that was, if it was a couple months or half a year or something like that, after the fall of the stadium, where you have the Fear survivors that are kind of going around trying to find the vultures and kill them. At some point here where Morgan starts to kind of get involved with that. So in terms of Morgan's point of view and his story as things ended for The Walking Dead Season 8, so The Walking Dead Season 8's episode Wrath, which was day 623, which is close to, so you're getting close to the end of a couple years here, so that would be around, in terms of real world time, or their timeline, that would be in around 2000, let's say close to 2012, so you have it being around 2012 there. Morgan leaves, and you get kind of that time skip with him kind of as he's running and everything like that, as well as the time skip of him living at the junkyard for a little while before he decides to leave when Rick goes to visit him and everything like that. And he eventually, at some point here, according to the Wikia, day 794, you have Morgan encountering John Dory. So that's now after 2 years. So that would be into 2012 now, where he meets John and the others, and he eventually runs into the Fear group, and then you kind of have all those events go through as they kind of go and attack the vultures, everything like that. And the mid-season finale, in terms of the current timeline where we find out all this information, ends at day 797. So that would put the Fear group at 2 years and approximately 0.2, so 2 years and a few months here. So I mean, this is tricky, right? The Fear timeline is kind of chaotic and it's kind of crazy, especially after the events of the dam. Some of the things I don't really like with the wiki's kind of dates and the way they have things, I'll put the link in the description as well for you guys to check out the wiki for yourselves and how they sort of have things set up here in terms of the dates. It feels to me like the first 3 seasons of Fear should have been longer than 2 months. It really does. I would say at least, I want to say, for the first 3 seasons of Fear, it should be like, half a year or something like that. So that's one thing. And then, of course, when the dam went down and they left, I would think that would be a little while as well, too, until they eventually found the stadium, which, again, it's hard to say how long that actually was. Then the stadium they stay at for a full year, and then maybe within a month after or a few weeks after the vultures kind of show up, everything goes to hell, and then Madison, the whole thing that happens with Madison, and then Morgan eventually kind of encountering them afterwards there. So, with Fear the Walking Dead Season 4's first half, I feel like they did an okay job of dealing with the timeline and just the amount of time space that was there from the dam to the point where Morgan can meet with them. They use the stadium to at least fill out a year, so you have a long time there in the zombie apocalypse that's taken up with a little bit of time before they found the dam that we didn't get to see before they found the stadium, after the dam that we didn't get to see, and then a little bit of time afterwards after the stadium had fallen of them just living on the road, that kind of deal, until they eventually ran into Morgan and we saw all those events kind of go down there. So that's what we have in terms of making sense for the timeline of Fear. Is it perfect? No, I don't think so. That would put them at around year 2012 at some point there in terms of their real world time. There are a lot of issues with the timeline. I want to say that for the original Walking Dead series, even though it's just over 2 years in the whole 8 seasons that we've seen now, when we come back, there'll be a bit of a time skip, and it'll probably be like, maybe 3 or 4 years. So that will, again, shift the timeline forward for the original Walking Dead series, putting it ahead of Fear, which also kind of makes it tricky because there are different times in the storyline here based on what we're seeing. But to me, it feels like the timeline should be longer. Some of the issues I've always had with these timelines are the weather, kind of the way things look. Certain times it's clearly in the original Walking Dead series the fall. Other times it's clearly summertime or like that kind of deal, like late spring. Carl grows up so many years in 2 years, it's not even funny, Like, how do you account for just the way that the whole cast looks? And even for Fear as well, too, they don't look to me like it's only been a couple years. They do look like it's been longer than that. So, at least to me, it looks that way. So, let me know what you guys think about the Fear the Walking Dead timeline. I know it's kind of tricky because you get the gaps after the stadium and the gap between the dam and the stadium, but that's kind of how they collapsed or closed the dates. From Fear the Walking Dead Season 3 to Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 when Morgan crossed over. I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it's like absolutely horrendous. I think it makes like relative sense, and there's just some space in there that it's kind of hard to say how long it actually took up. Maybe everyone's opinion is kind of would differ on that, or be a little bit different for that. So that'll be it for this video, guys, of the Fear the Walking Dead timeline explained. We are now at day 797, over 2 years into the zombie apocalypse. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments below, and if you like this video, please thumb it up below. You can also share, you can favorite, and if you're new and you want to subscribe, bottom left to subscribe. That's it for today's video. I'll see you guys again soon for another Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead video. So I was just Trev, saying peace. Later, guys. See you soon.